I want the bets from Betting Weekly, because we win, that is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. Bet Rivers sponsors. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
And a very good day to one and all. This is Betting Weekly Live. You're alongside Dan Roebuck and, of course, Lewis Jones. On the agenda today, we are talking soccer. We've got some live games in the third tier in England, in the second tier in Germany. We're going to take a sneak peek at the futures as well when it comes to League One and League Two in England. We've got Leagues Cup for you as well. Lewis is going to delve into the weekend with a couple of plays, one in England, one in Scotland. And I've also press-ganged Nigel into giving me a few leans, a few thoughts on the tennis that comes up a little bit later on today in Canada. So we've got a packed schedule for you. Lewis, how's it going? I mean, look, you know, with the eve of the League One, League Two season, it feels, even though there's been a lot of football with the Club World Cup over the course of the summer, it feels like a lot's been building towards this.
Yeah, it's a great time of year, isn't it, Dan? It's ready to get going again, but there's so much noise even before a ball has been kicked. This is the thing we have to negotiate, I think, as punters at this time of the season. Before, you don't want to get too excited, I think, with the anti-post plays, because you can get a little bit carried away with certain gambles and certain signings that are made. I always like to give the advice: just tread a little bit carefully at this time of the season, just because the prices don't change too much after 5 games. After you've had a little look at these teams, looked at their data. If you're looking at a team who's maybe 8-1 to win a league, after a few games, you know they're on the right tracks. They're showing some good signs. That 8-1's probably going to still be there after 3-4 games, you'd hope. So I would just recommend people just to calm down a little bit in terms of the noise and all what's going on in the anti-post. I know it's very exciting to get involved anti-post, but these prices are still there in the first 3-4 weeks of the season. They don't disappear. You can still get on and you can still come to conclusions then. So that's the tactic I'm using this season. I'm going a bit sort of easier in anti-post wise until I've seen some evidence of some football being played, and rather just basing it on a lot of noise and a lot of assumption. So that'd be my advice for people, is not to get too carried away with the noise ahead of the pre-season. But it's hard to do so because it's very exciting, Dan.
No, it is, and the sort of next question you sort of part answered already. Like, you know, what do you look for first few games of the season? Is it a case that you look for pre-season signings? You know, pre-season friendlies, how teams do or managers do off the bat, you know, when it comes to the season starting, what teams have done. You know, there are lots of sort of known unknowns, if you like. Or, as you say, do you sit back and you think, do you know what? First 6 games, let's get some form in the book here before I do anything.
Yeah, all those things are all relevant, I think, especially the new signings one. I think you want to make sure that the new man is settled into the way the team plays. A lot of these players that come from different leagues take time to adapt. Some adapt very quickly and sort of settle quicker than snow, as Paul Merson once famously said. But it's just all these things into the equation. You've got to consider, and that's much easier to come to conclusions once you've seen these teams play in a competitive environment. Look at Manchester United, for example, absolutely wiped the floor with Bournemouth in pre-season. Everyone's getting very excited, exactly, and they're going to be top 4. Can they go and win the league? And when the taps are turned on, the pressure's on, and they're playing at Old Trafford in front of an expectant crowd again, can they go and perform? So this is all, it's all noise, all this pre-season. I would just try and remove it from your thinking if you can. Try and enjoy some of the games and from a spectacle point of view, but I would just wait until the real stuff happens before getting really stuck in.
Mike says, hello, nice couple of winning bets from yesterday. Ian says, good morning, as does Steve from Lynn. Villavan says, hi, Dan, hi, Lewis. Bring on the football season. Leslie Mack, tell the Pet Shop Cricket Boys to get back here. Was that yesterday? Duncan says, afternoon, guys. Benjamin says, will this be the year for MK Dons? We will take a look at the outrights for League One and League Two, the futures for League One and League Two. We've both got some thoughts on that. If you want to a futures bet that will last you over the course of the season, or at least we hope it'll last you over the course of the season. Shane says, "Hey Dan and Lewis, I do like to try the anti-post league handicap. 14's the field. Liverpool off scratchy CC. Yeah, I like the handicap.
Yeah.
I had a look. Lower leagues, it's not something that Bet Rivers offer. Obviously, you probably have to get it elsewhere. But I love a handicap bet. I have a handicap Yankee parlay every single year to try and win like £500,000. Because that's all if you're playing for pounds or £2, dollars, $2, and you're 14.
They're the bets to place. They are. It's the time to dream in terms of your betting stakes, I think. But in terms of like cold calculated picks on an anti-post, like an outright market or a goal scorer bet on one of the more traditional markets, I think you've got to keep your powder dry for at least a few weeks in the season to make some assumptions. But yeah, those handicap bets, I can never remember the handicaps.
No, can I?
Season. Right, always looking back, and going, how much? Always get them out by about 20 points as well.
Yeah,
I'm in the money here and I'm nowhere near.
Do you know what? That is so true. I mean, I backed Villa on the handicap a couple of years ago when they won, and when it last few weeks of the season, when they won the handicap, but last few weeks of the season, I thought, hang on a minute, who have I got to worry about here? Is it Everton? Is it Bournemouth? And I was trying to get in touch with a customer service rep of a bookmaker. And these days, you know how difficult it was. I was trying to look for, anti-post handicap prices from 9 months ago. They didn't know what on earth I was talking about. Eventually, I got it, and I did cash that one. Yeah, Villa with
perhaps they should build some handicap tables to keep us all in, because there's plenty of people I know that play them, and there needs to be a handicap table that goes alongside the actual table, so we can all stay ahead.
Maybe we should just write them down.
Bets,
Maybe
we
should
write
just
them down.
Yeah, exactly. We take
responsibility, maybe. Yeah.
Exactly. Come on. Friday live streams on the Bet Rivers app, Bet Rivers website. If you've got an account, you'll be able to watch Luton Wimbledon. Thoughts from Lewis coming up very shortly on that one. Leagues Cup action. Will White has been brilliant on Leagues Cup on the Wednesday and the Thursday, and I'll rattle through the prices a little bit later on that, but there is a live game on the site. It's Tigres against San Diego. San Diego top of the West in MLS incident. And we got Club Brugge and Mechelen. We hit the bar with our goal scorer pick on the opening weekend of the Belgian top flight last season when Promised David, who we tipped up, got a penalty and missed it. That's what happens. Linz against Sturm Graz in Austria. We've got live games in Denmark, in Sweden, USL Championship, Ireland, Bulgaria, Romania, and the tennis is streamed live as well. ATP Toronto and WTA Montreal. What have we got here? Shane says, as regards to the domestic outrights, Leeds stand out last season 3-1, but nothing else popping out. That's true. Leslie Mack says Luton. We'll get to it, don't worry. Shane says, congratulations, Lewis, on Paris Saint-Germain bet with Champions League. A right touch. Yes, it was.
Ooh,
Lewis,
I'm still living off that, am I? Excellent.
It was. Listen, you put something on, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months out and they win at a big price, Lewis. You can dine on that for a long time.
Excellent. I'll keep on dining. Don't worry. I'll get my fork and keep dining. Don't worry.
Grazia says, you need to get a paper coupon. Keep it safe. Wise words from Grazia. That's if paper coupons still exist. Neil F says, Wednesday for the job. Is Steve on holiday? Lol, says S. Yes, Steve. And yes, S. And Noah, I think when I was on Wednesday, he says he misses Steve. It's like the worst 3 words in the English language put together. Steve is away. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been me and Simon all week. Steve is back next week. I'm sorry. What can I do? You know what I mean?
Not that your confidence has been affected whatsoever by these messages.
Exactly. I've been flying this week. Don't worry about that. Duncan says Luton have got to get past the mighty Wigan. Yeah, with of course Wickham's former manager, Duncan, as I'm sure you're aware. Let's get to Schalke Hertha Berlin. We're going to talk about first of all because it's the start of the Bundesliga 2 season, Bundesliga 2, Zweite Bundesliga. 306 games last season in the second tier in Germany. If you bet the draw in every single game, and there were 87 draws, you turned a profit. 17-point profit to average prices, 5.56 return on investment. If you did it the previous season, 43-point loss. If only it was that simple as backing the draw. It isn't. This is an interesting one. Massive teams, Schalke and Hertha, both enduring rather than enjoying their third consecutive season in the second tier. I mean, they're top flight sides, really. Schalke were Champions League knockout stage team just over a decade ago, 2009. Their slip has been unfortunate for their supporters, and both were poor last season. If you backed them on the money line last campaign, you lost money on both. And this is because a lot of the time with these teams, because they're big teams in a lower division, the bookmakers, the odds compilers, the traders will factor an awful lot in. They know that the public money is going to come. Nuremberg are only one place above Hertha, turned a big profit last season. So it's not about wins. It's always about odds. It's always about the price. I think this is a difficult opener. There'll be 62,000 here tonight. It'll be absolutely packed. They get 62,000 every single game, even though I had a shocking campaign last season. Schalke, they finished way down. They've got Miran Muslic, who was at Plymouth for half the season last season, now in charge. They've made one or two interesting signings. They are plus 180 to beat a Hertha side who were good towards the end of last season. They only finished 11th, but Stefan Leitl came in and steadied the ship. They only lost one game in 9 with him in charge. They're plus 140 to win away from home. I think this is a really difficult game to call. I would not really look at the money line, but we have had a little bit of fun and turned a little bit of profit with goal scorers this week. If you were with us over the course of the Champions League qualifiers, we picked Van Aert, the Dynamo Kiev player, to score, and he did. Juricic in the Panathinaikos game against Rangers, and he did Katayan Duarte in the Crvena Zvezda game, and he managed to score. And Lewis, when we were together last week, you'll note that I put up Vidra to score at any time in the Plzeň game. He didn't when we were.
You built that up, didn't you?
He didn't, and then at the weekend, he scored. And then this week he scored. So we stuck with him. We said he was a streaky striker, and hopefully one or two managed to. It's
very good advice, that actually. If you see someone make a really good case for an any bet actually, which is which is something you can latch onto in the games preceding that one. Keep it in mind and test the theory out, because it does happen a lot with these. Once you jump off the train, that's when it happens, and that's when it stops at the station. So definitely, if you feel someone's made a really good case for something and you think and it hasn't landed, it doesn't mean it was a bad bet. It means just play it again until the prices are right, really. So I think he's a perfect example about the Vidra one, a very streaky striker, and the anytime goal scorer markets are perfect for that for strikers, because you're getting prices where you can still turn a profit over sort of 4 or 5 games if they bag a couple. So I can definitely see your Vidra argument there, and I'm glad he did score, Dan.
Thank you. The one that we've got for you tonight is Fabian Riese, who's the Hertha Berlin striker. He scored 11 goals last season from 14 starts. He had a serious ankle injury and missed a lot of last season, missed some 17 games in all competitions. But he came back last season and was absolutely flying. He's kept that up in pre-season. He scored 3 goals in pre-season, including one last weekend against Motherwell in a 1-1 draw. Now, the interesting thing about that goal, it was a penalty. Last season, he wasn't on penalties. Hertha had 4 different penalty takers. They were all good. They all managed to score. They had a 100% record from the spot Hertha in the Bundesliga 2. But it looks like Riese is on penalties, which is a little bit of an uptick, isn't it? He was regularly scoring away from home when he got back into the side after injury last season. 6 away. He scored in 4 of those games. And here's another little kicker, as well as the penalty angle, is the fact that he's a former Schalke junior, and he never was given much of a go there. Only started 2 league games for Schalke. He has played against them previously 4 times, and he scored twice. And I look back at the goals on YouTube. He celebrated both of them. None of this thing. Do you know what I mean? They let him go when he was a bit younger, and he didn't really get on. So that's a little bit of a sort of tick in the right box for me as well. He wants to score against his old club. None of this sort of respectful nonsense that we see these days. He's plus 170. Anytime goal scorer. So great back end of last season, back injury. He captained the side at Motherwell. He's on penalties against his former club. Got a decent record, small sample size, admittedly. And if I was pushed on the money line, I'd probably take Hertha over Schalke. I think they finished the season better. They've had better pre-season results. But yeah, have a look at Fabian Riese.
And also, just to add to that, Bundesliga 2 is a goal-heavy league as well. It's a fantastic league to follow, actually, from an entertainment perspective. Plenty going on, always lots of cards, lots of action. I think the goal average was over 3 last year per game. So again, this sort of factors into you want to play you want to play goal scorers in leagues where there are goals, because that's where you can get the sort of the added edge on the over/under lines if you're playing the anytime scorers instead. If you're chasing a bit of a bigger price, so that sort of all falls into the argument for that. So yeah, no, I like that argument a lot.
Yeah, Reese's to play plus 170. I mean, you're dead right. And when you're looking at, not just leagues that have goals, but just short price favourites. If you think a team's going to score a goal, we had Red Star in midweek. The handicap was like -3 against the Gibraltar side that they were playing, so you just knew goals were going to come, so you get on the goal scorers, and that proved to be the right thing to do. So that's my thoughts on the Schalke Hertha game. Really good game, incidentally, tonight in the Bundesliga second tier. 62,000, I say, probably one of the biggest crowds of this weekend. What have we got here on comments? Vidavan says, "Don't worry, Dan, you have your fans too." Thank you for that. Acha Bacha says, "Wickham, surely." Hey, hi, both. Grasses says, "Amazing how many have said Ipswich to win the championship on the newsletter." Yes, me as well.
Yeah, and me.
Steven says, "Yeah, scored twice on one hitter then. Thanks, Dan." Shane says, "Lewis, do you exclusively bet only on football? A, do you rank specialise in certain leagues, or go all in tier 1 leagues?" Shane wants to know your sort of betting strategies for leagues that you look at.
I'm probably 80% Premier League focused, 20% Championship. Really, it's rare that and obviously the Champions League would fall into that category as well. But I rarely, I just don't have the time or the resources really to get involved too heavily in the European stuff. I leave that down to other people who are best placed to then just plagiarise and copy their bets, Dan. That's normally the best way. Be a good judge of a judge is really important when you're trying to build your betting portfolio up. So mostly Premier League. That's where I specialise. That's where my day-to-day job is. That's where I find my edges. That's where I've got the best knowledge of the league. That's where my eye is best trained, the English division. So that's where I just find that I make the most money and make the most edges. So that's where my focus lies. So yes, mostly Premier League, but a little bit of Championship too. And then obviously when the Champions League comes around as well, we get involved there too.
Would you say top flight? If you were going to specialise, would you specialise in top flight football? So, if Shane was thinking, well, I'm not really an English Premier League fan, but I like Italian football, would you go Serie A? Or do you think just whatever you enjoy? Or is there value lower down the leagues or in more leagues that aren't so fashionable? I mean, Steve Wiss looks at all the Scandinavian football and he's deadly when it comes to the Swedish football in particular, the Norwegian action. Any sort of advice if people are thinking, right, I'm gonna start with a particular league? I think it's something you have to. Your job to a certain extent, you've got to do Premier League, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it sort of falls alongside nicely my my job is a journalist to cover the Premier League, so I'm going to be across the Premier League naturally. But I think if you are going to specialise in something, you have to be engaged in the football that you're doing. I've tried to sort of like branch out to different leagues in the past and haven't found as I've enjoyed it as much maybe, or has even been engaged in it, and I feel like that has probably affected the results that I'm getting. So I think if you find a league that and you enjoy and you're fully engaged with, I think that'd be my advice. And obviously finding a niche in anything, whether it's like certain markets or certain teams or leagues, that is so important. If you can specialise in one area where you can sort of regularly turn a profit and beat the market, then that's where you should focus all your attention and try and stake accordingly where you can to make the most of the edge. So yeah, I would say specialise and find the niche and just be engaged in what you're doing, because it always helps in anything you do in life if you're engaged in it.
Jimmy says, "Hello, got Reese at plus 200 locked in. Great player." S says, "Do you both bet on over 0.5 first half goals? If you do, what teams or matches do you usually go for?" And Steve says, "Do you specialise in a particular market when in the Premier League or favour a certain market?" These are the last general questions before we get into some picks. We're probably driving some people mad here. Lewis, any thoughts on those two questions?
It's turned into This Is Your Life. This is for me. This is great. Specialise in a lot of over the last 5 years or so. The props markets have been really helpful for me in terms of profit and finding winning angles and jumping on prices where which are completely wrong, and you can get a good read on certain players by their data and watching them and etc. So that's where I find my edges and specialise. It's becoming harder and harder because of sort of restrictions on certain props markets that you get across the board now, but it's a great it's a great added weapon, I think, to my artillery in terms of just trying to get ahead in the long term. So yeah, the props markets is where I I specialise because I just think there's just great prices to attack there, and you can really get ahead of the market.
If you like what you hear on our show, sign up to our newsletter, get exclusive tips and free Insider magazine. Sign up for free, bettingweeklystudios.com. And we've got a $100 bonus bet for you as well. You can win a $100 bonus bet today from BetRivers. Enter the Hall of Fame game giveaway on the BetRivers X account for your chance to win a $100 bonus bet. Go to @BetRivers on X and look for the pinned post to enter. $100 bonus bet can be yours. Let's get to Luton Wimbledon, shall we? This game is being streamed live on the BetRivers app and on the BetRivers website. Luton are -215 here. Wimbledon are +450. 18 months ago, this would have been Premier League versus League Two, top tier versus fourth tier. But it's not now, of course. They're both in the same division because Luton's double drop. I can't get away from... I don't know what you're picking in this game, Lewis. I mean, I can't get away from Luton here. I mean, I know they're ridiculously short. And I'm outplayed on the Asian line -1 at about -120 here. What are your thoughts and picks on Luton against Wimbledon?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting game to start the season, isn't it? I think it's going to be a very popular game to bet on, considering the timing of it on a Friday night, and the season is beginning with League One and League Two in this sort of staggered start, which does shine a light on these two leagues, which I think is great. I think it gives viewers, punters, football fans a chance to maybe engage in some teams that they're not used to watching. And here we've got the favourites to be promoted against the favourites to be relegated. So I can completely see, Dan, why you're sort of looking at that price.
It's a bit of a muggy play, though, isn't it? Come on, tell us where this.
It could be. I suppose you might be looking at it as it's sort of some easy pickings, just based on the favourites of the league taking on the relegation favourites. But I would actually be quite wary of Luton early in the season, especially up against a team like AFC Wimbledon, who obviously on the back of promotion, but they were very, very hard to beat in League Two last season. They're not a great team to watch. They haven't got much attacking flair about them, but my God, are they very, very difficult to beat, and they're sort of defensively, I would call them impeccable, really, in terms of what they offered last season. I mean, they only conceded 35 goals in League Two last season, which was 10 fewer than in any other side in the division. So this is a defence which knows what they're doing, and they kept the most clean sheets in the league, fewest shots on target face. So all the data sort of backs up this. It wasn't unfortunate. The underlying data rose completely alongside this AFC Wimbledon defence. My only slight worry about that, without getting too carried away with them, is their goalkeeper, Owen Goodman, was on loan last season. He won the Golden Glove in the league, 21 clean sheets, as I mentioned, was named in the team of the season. Brilliant young goalkeeper. He's left, and now he's gone to Huddersfield. So they've had to sort of switch the goalkeeper around. So that might just ruin a bit of their chemistry maybe at the back in terms of their ability to sort of keep up these records going up a level. But I still think this team can be relied upon to play sort of a defence-first style of play. I still think they're going to be hard to beat. They're going to make it quite scrappy, aren't they? They're going to go there and try and get a result. And it probably won't be very hard to wobble the confidence of this Luton as a club, really, who's suffered, as he's mentioned, suffered back-to-back relegations. I can imagine the fans being on edge, really. Now expectations right on them to go and win some games again. They're very much used to losing football matches as a football club, and they're going to have to rid themselves of that sort of losing mentality quite quickly. I know they sort of finished the season okay under Bloomfield yesterday, and they had a chance to stay up on the final day and sort of threw it away, and they got hammered, didn't they?
They were shocking. Yeah, commentating on that game, they were terrible.
Yeah, exactly. So they sort of they got themselves into an okay position, then completely lost their heads on the final day. So I wouldn't be too sure of that Luton price, really, just at this stage of the season as well. Definitely not. I'm not brave enough either to back against the team that are favourite for the relegation against the favourites for promotion. I mean, this time of the season, that makes no sense to really get too involved in the outright. But I really like, this isn't going to surprise people that know a lot about it. I really like the under goals line here at the prices. I know there's probably no better way to start the season, is there, to back an unders bet. You spent your whole summer not engaging with football. Then when it comes back, you hope nothing happens in a game so you can win some money. But that's how my sort of brain is wired. And I really like the price here at odds against. Was it plus? We've got plus 104. Is it? Did you say plus? Yeah, plus
104.
I think that's quite juicy actually, because based on the evidence of last season, this Luton team don't really look capable of scoring hatfuls of goals, even under when Matt Bloomfield took over and there was an upsurge in results. I mean, there's been a huge lack of firepower, I think, with Luton over the past 12 months or so. And their last 12 games of last season, when they were even playing quite well, they averaged just 2.33 goals per 90, so under that 2.5 line. But it was their expected goals data in those sort of 12 games came in at 2.06 per 90. That's total XG of their matches. So I just find it hard to see what has changed so much over the summer. Yes, they're going to be playing easier opposition, but the signings they made, Narky Wells is a very experienced striker
35
at that level, but he's, as you say, 35 years old. Is he past his best now? I'm not sure he's really going to be the answer that they're looking for. They've sold Carlton Morris, who was their top scorer, even though he only scored 7 last season. They've got this guy, Milenkic Ali, on the left. He looks like a good talent. They'll probably have to base their season around him. But I think the way they're going to win games in this league is going to be very controlled with the ball, being hard to score against, defensive first, rather than really putting their foot down and blitzing teams, because I don't think they've got the attacking players to do that. And I think if you offered 1-0 tonight to anyone involved with Luton, they would just absolutely bite your hand off to get the season up and running with a scrappy 1-0 win. So I just think the mix of the Wimbledon defensive output, which is outstanding, along with the fact that Luton don't score many goals and confidence could be low if they don't get an early goal, really plays into that under 2.5 line. And I've got some stats here, Dan, on under 2.5 goals on match day 1 in League One over the past 5 years. I think you're going to like this. So in the last 5 seasons, there's been a 62% strike rate for under 2.5 in the first match day of League One, which is a very high strike rate when the sort of season average is around 52%. So it nearly goes up 10% on match day 1 over five seasons as well. So this is quite a big sample size. And I think it might have something to do with maybe teams just being undercooked in terms of preparation for the season, as I think it's quite hard to implement attacking strategies as a coach and coach teams to score goals and it's just easier to coach the structure of the team. So at the start of the season, they're going to start probably their focus on defensive play, and I think that's being borne out in the underlines here early on in the season, especially in League One. So I think that also adds into the argument here of the unders being the play here when you can get a good price on match day 1. We're going to go on to that a little bit later as well with another pick I've got this weekend on under 2.5 in goals in League One. But I think there's plenty of weight here behind this game being a very low scoring game to start the season. So I have to jump on at odds against there. I think that's a great price.
Lovely. Under 2.5 is the play. A says he's tempted by the under here. Grazza saying, memory of the first season games on a Friday night rarely go to plan. Blinker got over 3 Asian in the Schalke Hertha game. And Zolo Aji says sold Luton and under 3.5 at plus 120. That might be an interesting way to go. I don't mind that one at all. As you say, maybe, it's one of those games that they just get over the line, Luton, one late on. They've not been great, but there's just a little bit of quality from someone somewhere that gets them over the line. I love that unders. I mean, I'll probably end up backing Luton, but I think you've sold me into unders.
Luton and unders. What's Luton and unders, Dan? That might be the way in. Luton under 2.5. That might be same game, parlay them up.
That'd be decent. Steve says 1-0 exact score is plus 400. If you like the correct scores, that is Luton against Wimbledon for you tonight. Now, just a quick word on the Leagues Cup, because I know that a few of our viewers and listeners have been getting involved with Will White's trend of overs in a lot of these games. And I texted Will earlier today, and we agreed. I said to him, it looks like the market's gone a little bit. You'll see here in a couple of the lines, New York City FC, Club Leon, and Columbus Crew against Puebla, that suddenly we've jumped up to over 3.5, and the under 2.5 line is now minus 182. A lot of these games in the Leagues Cup, which is MLS versus Liga MX sides, were around about minus 120, minus 130, minus 140, which will suggest it is a little bit of value. Not so much. We think maybe the price has gone. I know Stephen on Twitter. I don't know if Stephen's watching. If Steve on Twitter is still Stephen Lynn, it's the same person. I'm not 100%. But I know he's been absolutely having it right off. There's been all these overs games. I think 5 of the 6 last night, and maybe even the previous night as well. And 2024 Leagues Cup, there was an awful lot of overs. The stats are incredible. this year we have seen 78% overs in 2025. The average goals per match is 3.94. Whether that is going to continue, Steve says yes, that is him. Yeah, thanks, Steve. So Steve's been having this write-off. So whether you're still going with this, Steve, because the prices have gone a little bit, I don't know. But what Will did say to me, he said, first of all, San Diego over 2.5 looks at play. You can see San Diego are away at Tigres, and that's a game that's live on the Bet Rivers app. So minus 148, not quite as short as quite as few of the others. And Will did suggest just a couple of other leans when it comes to the League Cup action tonight. He liked Club Lyon, who are plus 360 to win. He was suggesting get them +1 on the Asian line. And both of us decided that we quite like Pachuca in their game against LAFC. And there's an interesting form line with Pachuca. You can see that they're 3-1 to beat LAFC. But Pachuca were at the Club World Cup Championship. They got knocked out the group stages. They're top of Liga MX at the minute. Now, they beat San Diego on match day 1. San Diego are top of the Western Conference, as we mentioned. They're 10 points clear of LAFC, so there's a good form line there. It is being played at LAFC, but Pachuca will have a lot of support at the BMO because it's Los Angeles. They just will. LAFC, in their first game of their Leagues Cup, were beaten on penalties by Mazatian, 11-10 on pens after a draw. And Pachuca beat Mazatian just last weekend in Liga MX. There's a real strong form line. You could go draw double chance, minus 103 Pachuca. Will is suggesting a 3/4 ball start, which would be a little bit shorter, but minus 103 Pachuca, draw double chance. Overs in the San Diego game are the two that we like. Blinkergon says both teams to score an over in the LAFC Pachuca game. Steve just suggesting, crushed it last night. Bet live over 6.5. God, hit a plus 550. Yeah, I mean, there's just some. There's been a 7-0 Seattle win. There's been 5-2s, 4-1s, the absolute lot. So Leagues Cup overs. Has the price gone a little bit? Maybe. Have a look at Pachuca on the Asian line. San Diego overs. Those are the two that we would suggest to you for the games coming away tonight. Got a little bit of tennis. Nigel's marked my card for the tennis. That's coming up shortly. We're going to finish with Lewis's best bets over the weekend. Just a brief look, because we are rattling on in this show tonight. Brief look at some of the futures plays. And right at the top of the show, a couple of the commenters were talking about League One and saying Luton. Are Luton the value? I suggest you're going to say no, Lewis. They are currently 3-1. Huddersfield have bought wisely. Alfie Mayer's gone there, hasn't he? 6-1 shot. Cardiff haven't bought anyone, as far as I know. And then Stockport, Plymouth, Bolton. Give us your thoughts on the League One outrights, Lewis.
Yeah, I think there was a bet in this market, and I say I've kept my powder relatively dry in the anti-post, but I did get excited about one price which was dropped about 2 weeks ago, and that was the price on Stockport County winning League One. I think they're around sort of plus 1,200, 12-1.
Yeah.
A week or two ago. Price has collapsed now, really, and I can completely see why the money has come. And they plus 800 now. I still think if you're not involved with Stockport to win the league, I still think you can jump on it at plus 800 and you'll still get a really good run for your money here. Because I think one of the main theories for this one was the price, because they finished as the third best team last season behind Birmingham and Wrexham. And I think last season's league was a very strong one, considering those two teams. I think they'll both go quite well in the Championship, both of them. They've got very big financial spending power. And Stockport managed to keep tabs on Wrexham, didn't they, throughout the back end of the season. And say they are the sort of XG darlings, aren't they? Stockport. They had a really, really strong process last season. It was actually better than Wrexham's for the majority. They had a blip over the Christmas period, which put pay to their real challenge towards Birmingham and Wrexham. But in terms of the underlying numbers, they were the second best team in the league next season. So I don't really understand why the second best team in the league, according to the data, when it's a really strong league, was 12-1 and is still 8-1 to win the league in a season where I don't think there's a standout candidate really at the top of the market. Luton, they are a very well-run club, and they have got probably a bit more spending power because of the parachute payments that have come from the Premier League, and there isn't the usual chaos you associate with relegation. But I still think Stockport and the likes of we've got Chesterfield. That's League One, isn't it? The likes of like even Bolton and Reading and Blackpool. These are all teams that have had good seasons and been playing very well in League One over the years. So I think the price about Stockport is still backable at plus 800 to win the league, and you can still get plus 250 for a top three finish, which I think should be sort of closer to even money, I think, really, than it should be. So yeah, Stockport for me, they're the team I'm really invested in this league, in the outright, and I think just at this time of season, there's a lot of unknowns, isn't there, in the summer? As I've mentioned the noise, I've mentioned signings. You know what you're going to get with Stockport. Dave Challoner has built such a strong team. They're backed by a very, very ambitious and wealthy owner. They've gone up from non-league over the past 3 seasons or so. They're used to winning football matches, and I just think this upward trajectory that they're on is going to continue, and I don't see why they're going to fall away. So I think they're going to be thereabouts at the end of the season. I think plus 800 still is a bet for them to win the league.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I've bet Stockport. They're in a lot of my accumulators for League One. Zolo's been on with some Leagues Cup thoughts. Tigres and overs, both 2.5 and 3.5, and Toluca and both teams to score. Always get your picks in the comments there. I know that the community is growing and you don't have to listen to us all the time. There's some shrewdies when it comes to the comments, that's for sure. What about League Two, briefly? If Luton are worth taking on, are MK Dons worth taking on here? Do we think they have invested heavily, but they did last season and failed fairly spectacularly? We've got MK Dons at 3-1, Chesterfield at 7-1, were probably the best team back end of the season, weren't they? Got knocked out in the playoffs. Bristol Rovers plus 1400, Gills plus 1400, Gavin Ainsworth now in charge. Salford always seem to be tipped, but they're 14-1 this time around. Thoughts on League Two from you, Lewis?
Yeah, big gamble, haven't they, on MK Dons? Be interested to see how much Bet Rivers have laid here on MK Dons, because they were sort of, I think they were around plus 800 when they were a few weeks ago, and they've really come in since the signings they've made. I think they brought in Callum Patterson and Nathaniel Mendez-Lang, very experienced and good players for the level. So I completely see where they're coming from in terms of having a good season, but their price now, so short. It's absolutely ridiculous considering the unknowns in terms of how they're going to set up. And they've got a new manager, haven't they? Paul Warne took charge at the end of last season. There's a very good CV in terms of his promotions from League One. I think he's got 4 promotions on his CV from League One. So if you're going on that workings, the fact he's now in League Two, this should be a doddle for him. But I'm not sure it's a great fit, to be honest. I mean, MK Dons over the years have been a sort of very data-led, modern sort of run football club with the head coach working with various members of like the staff to come to decisions in terms of director of football and things like that. But now they've just appointed someone who just wants to have control over everything, I think, and have more of a say in the recruitment, like Paul Warne does. And he's a very good manager, and I do like the way he goes about his business, and he's a very engaging character to listen to and deal with. But I think you're putting a lot of hope in the fact Warne can get them over the line here, and I wouldn't take that risk at plus 300. I think there's better bets to have, and I've backed Barnet here at big price at plus 2,000 with Bet Rivers. I think they're massively underestimated, actually, considering they're the promoted team from the National League. They absolutely romped the league last season, and we've seen time and time again the step up from the National League to League Two is not a big one at all. Teams adapt very, very quickly. Look at Stockport a couple of seasons ago. They managed to go up. Chesterfield did great last season. Bromley did all right. They finished mid-table last season. And I just don't think that the gap between the National League and League Two isn't as big as maybe the market thinks still. And they're just, you know exactly what you're going to get with Barnet. They've kept their sort of core of their squad together. The guy that scores all the goals, Callum Stead, he's still there. He scored 20 plus goals last season. He'll be fine at the level. He'll score goals. And the manager, Dean Brennan, he's got a bit of the sort of Dave Challoners about him, actually, the Stockport manager. Very good manager, very humble. He's all about his team. He's got no ego whatsoever. And I think the way that he works the football club with the chairman is very secure and a very savvy way of doing it. And there's a lot of clubs in League Two at the moment behind the scenes who are an absolute mess in terms of the way that they run their football club. So Barnet have got a really solid base to work with, good players, winning mentality. I think that could take them a long way this season in the league, which is really open, I think, and MK Dons are too short at the top. So, yeah, I've had a bit of Barnet to go to win the league at a big price.
Yeah, 20-1 to win the league. We couldn't put anyone off Barnet. I mean, top 3, if you want to bet them, they are 6-1. and top 7, which is a thing because it's a playoff place. You know, teams will be going for a top 7 finish. They're plus 175. So you could, what I've done, I've backed Barnet on handicap, but I will spread my bets around a little bit more. I'll go top 3, I'll go top 7, and you can work out what sort of stake, what sort of money you've got, and just throw it around a little bit and make sure that every single play that you does covers the others. So you go, for me, this is why I do it. I'll play a little bit bigger on the top 7.
Well, I could totally see where you're coming from there. My sort of tactic with this is to take a little bit of a price on them now and see how they start the season. Again, it goes back to my theory of watching 5 or 6 games, see how they are. And if they start well and their underlying process is good and they're performing well and they look like they're still got that winning mentality, then they're not going to be the price isn't going to move much from 20 to 1, is it? So you can go in again, even if you're taking 16s and 14s, if you still think it's a good bet. So I would just keep an eye on the first 5 games. If they adapt quickly, their price isn't going to shorten too much, because just of the name of the club as well. I know they're very sort of coming from non-league. I know they're a well-known club in sort of south of England in a way around London, but they're not a compared to MK Dons or anything like that, they're not a huge name. So I think that's factored into the price as well. So keep an eye on Barnet, I would, over the first 6 games. And if they start well, then press up.
Apologies if my mic has been a little low over the course of the show. Hopefully it's been coming through all right, but I've just got a message from the boss saying, can I turn it up? So I have done. Don't know if that's coming across a little bit louder to everyone, so sorry about that. Now then, speaking of the boss, Nigel has marked my card when it comes to the tennis today. Some really good tennis coming up, and of course this is live streamed on the BetRivers app and BetRivers website. Nigel gave me a few pointers when it comes to the games that will be kicking off a little bit later on. Artifice was a value play according to Nigel if fit, plus 125 here to beat Yuri Lehechka, who's minus 155. With the Gabriel Diallo Taylor Fritz game here, he was looking at overs in the first set and also overs in the game itself. The over line there is 23.5, minus 107 if you want to play overs on that one. Nigel telling me that the game between Nakashima and Shelton was an all-American affair, suggesting maybe, again, first set overs for that one. So those were the ATP Toronto. I've just seen the message, I presume, from Nigel here. No, the message was, can you put yourself on mute, please? No, come on. People want Steve back, and now I'm getting grief from Nigel as well. What can we do here? When it comes to WTA, which is also live on the site as well here, Osaka, unfortunately, did for us yesterday. Nigel liking the girl who Osaka beat up against Ostapenko, and suggesting here, if I can read my notes from Nigel. A little bit inconsistent, Ostapenko. This was the one potentially that whoever takes the first set, then you can play the other girl. One to trade the game between Ostapenko and Osaka. Madison Keys against Katie McNally. Madison Keys was the anti-post pick from the boys, so going well. She's minus 335 against Katie McNally, who's playing really good tennis, according to Nigel and all of the tennis gang. She is plus 255 here, but the word with her is her home tournament is Cincinnati next week. One to watch for next week, but maybe today we hope that Madison Keys get through. And then I won't repeat, because this is a family show, sort of, what he said about Raducanu up against Anisimova. Obviously, we know that we've all had our trouble with Emma Raducanu. We've not got her right for much of the season. But what Nigel did say about this game is that she's the favourite, minus 105. And if she does beat Anisimova, there is a big chance that she could go into the top 32 in the world and then be seeded for the US Open. And that would be absolutely massive. And again, he's suggesting maybe overs in that line for the game between those two. So that's a brief look at the tennis. Thank you, Nigel, for your comments. Let's get back to round up with the soccer with Lewis here, because we've got 2 more picks. They're weekend picks from Lewis. We're going to start, Lewis, with a game in England in League One. This is Wigan against Northampton. Wigan plus 114, Northampton plus 225, the tie plus 230. What have you got for us here?
Well, it's the unders line again, Dan, and I mentioned it about with the League One play tonight. I think this is of all the fixtures I was looking at and really wanted to what I'm going to try and do is just build a multiple around a few under 2.5 lines on Saturday in League One and possibly League Two as well. But this is going to be the sort of cornerstone of all the multiples that I play in terms of getting the sort of the banker of the under 2.5. Because as I mentioned, match day ones in League One and to a certain extent League Two, such a profitable history of going under 2.5 goals on match day one. So yeah, 62%, as I mentioned, of the games have gone under 2.5 in the last 5 seasons. So, and I think there will be a few teams that are undercooked and probably not ready to go yet because it's quite an early start. So, yeah, and these two this game just absolutely stood out like a sore thumb, and the prices do sort of mirror that, unfortunately. But I still think it's a winner in weight in this under 2.5 line. I think because Wigan, I mean, the end of last season, they were incredible for under 2.5 linebackers. They were so sound defensively, but so abysmal going forward. They've changed their manager. Sean Maloney's departed, and Ryan Lowe's come in now, who is probably even more of a pragmatic manager than Maloney is. So I think he'll do well to get this team scoring, and because across their last 13 league games last season, their total match goal average was 1.3 goals per 90. That's a total goals in their game, 1.3 goals. Absolute snooze fest where Wigan were involved, and there were just 17 goals scored in those 13 matches. So if you'd back the under 2.5 line in those last 13 Wigan games, you'd have won 12 times. So this is a really profitable theory that I am sort of regurgitating really from last season and jumping on. And so I think it'll continue considering they've signed Paul Mullin from Wrexham, but in terms of creation and where the goals are coming from, not sure that's going to change much. And Northampton are not a very good team away from home under Kevin Nolan. They struggle to score goals as well. I looked at their last 20 away games, only scoring 0.9 goals per 90. They only scored more than once in 2 of those 20 games. And just with that under 2.5 goals line, match day one theory that I'm going to be playing this weekend, this was the absolute sort of cornerstone and banker of my under 2.5. So yeah, minus 177. It is a short price, but I think it'll win.
We're looking for unders across League One and League Two. You can get them involved with parlays, or you can just maybe blanket bet them. It might be the way to go. Play it as you see it. The stats certainly suggest that unders, when it comes to the lower leagues that start this weekend. And finally, before we wrap things up, and we'll get Lewis's best bet of the show, we have got Motherwell against Rangers here. Scottish Premiership kicks off tomorrow. This is 12:30 Eastern, and Motherwell are 6-1. Rangers are minus 305 here. Now, we've spoken about Russell Martin previously, haven't we, Lewis? Rangers managed to qualify for the playoff round of the Champions League by beating Panathinaikos 3-1 over the 2 legs. I was surprised that they won the second leg. I thought they got a little bit lucky in the first leg, given the fact that Panathinaikos had a player sent off. And when you looked at some of the metrics there, Panathinaikos were unlucky to not to score. As it turned out, obviously that second leg wasn't actually played at Panathinaikos' home ground. They haven't been playing at the home ground recently. They play at I think Olympiakos' stadium, don't they? Anyway, that's the Champions League. What about their league campaign about to get underway? What's the theory here? Are we sticking with what you were talking about before? You might have to explain it again to some of our viewers.
Well, yes, this is the early taking on Russell Martin teams early on in his tenure. I know I've been given a dent in the wallet a little bit by the Panathinaikos 2 legs. Didn't come to fruition, but as you mentioned, there was enough there from the struggles that I felt Rangers had for a large majority, especially the first leg in trying to implement his possession at all cost style, where they play out from the back, and there's some of the risky passes that they're being encouraged to play from players that aren't used to doing it is leaving them very, very exposed. I just want to bring some stats to the table about Martin's first games in charge, 10 games in charge elsewhere of his tenure. He conceded 1.6 goals per game across those 30 league games at MK Dons, Swansea, and Southampton. So there is data to sort of back up that there can be some wobbles early on in the Russell Martin tenure, and I do think there'll be a couple of wobbles in the first 10 games, I'm sure, and we just got to jump on and time it right in terms of where we jump in and where the price is right. And I actually think it is here with Motherwell. Double chance is plus 200. That's the way I'll be playing. I'll be wanting to lay Rangers here at the prices. He's only had sort of 6-7 weeks to get his message across. He's got a really important game coming up as well on Tuesday, a Champions League qualifier against Pilsen. So that's that he's going to have one eye on that. And I'm just going to mention the Panathinaikos game here because this might be my pocket talking a little bit, but as you mentioned, the first 58 minutes of that first leg, before they had someone sent off, and they were somehow 1-0 down Panathinaikos, they created 1.6 worth of XG in those 58 minutes. Jack Butler was absolutely inspired, and time after time, Rangers tried to play out, got pressed, lost possession, and a chance fell to the Greek side. And it's that losing possession in their own in their final third data that really does alarm me about the style of football. I mean, they're so easy to press when they're in possession. They lost possession inside their own final third 16 times in those two games with Panathinaikos. And just to put some context into that, last season in the Premiership, Rangers lost possession 2.1 times per game in their final third. So it's gone from 2.1 per game to 8 times per game since Martin has taken charge. And I don't think you can continually avoid conceding big chances on your goal, even against sort of inferior opposition. So it's players like John Suter that are being tasked with trying to come out with the ball and playing, sort of being asked to play like Paolo Maldini to a certain extent with the ball. And he's just not. He's a very good defender, but he can't play out with the ball. That's not his way of playing. It's going to take him a lot of football to try and work out how to do this. So they're going to offer up big chances here to Motherwell, who won't have to do much. They'll just have to press them. They'll just have to be quite aggressive with what they do in the final third. I think they can do that. And I think they can get in on Jack Butland and create big chances. So, yeah, I think there's lots of reasons here at the prices. Motherwell did beat Rangers in the last meeting as well, 2-1 at Ibrox in Barry Ferguson's first game in charge as well. So there's recent form to go out. They won 5 of their last 11 Premiership games last season. I'm happy to invest in them here at plus 200. And I wouldn't even put people off having a go at a big sort of correct score here towards Motherwell, maybe backing them on the Asian line and really going for a price, because there's been some real thumpings that Rangers that Martin's teams has suffered early on in his tenure. They lost. I'm just looking at Southampton, lost 5-0 at Sunderland, 4-4 with Norwich, lost 4-1 at Leicester. I mean, I could see a potential, like a massive price, Motherwell just winning the game maybe like 3-1, 4-1, and just having everything just goes wrong. They're all chaotic and they keep trying to pass out. Confidence goes and the team just run all over them. So it's big prices probably. If you're looking at just backing Motherwell on the money line, plus 600 wouldn't put people off. But I'd even go further than that and try and take a play on one of the Asian side just in case it all goes completely wrong. Because if I think it's going to go wrong, I think it will go spectacularly wrong. So yeah, very pro Motherwell. Got to keep this Russell Martin theory going, and hopefully it'll bring home the bacon, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that I put up Juricic in midweek is because he was the one that was getting those big chances for Panathinaikos, and he's getting denied. And I looked at his stats. I think he had three from 3 shots on target. 2 were classed as big chances. And I thought, well, if he gets in the same sort of positions, surely he will score. Look, Rangers, we were talking about the game. They found a way. They do find a way in European games. Fair play to them for doing that. But yeah, the Martin angle is interesting. You know it's going to happen. It's just how we profit and when it happens. And you might just have you might have to take a few jabs here.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you get yourself in the fight, and then hopefully you can knock one out of the park. So it's an interesting one. I'm going to be playing it as well. Look, you can get involved with them with a +1 line Motherwell, can't you? Here, that's a bit more cautious. That's probably what I'll be playing. But yeah, sometimes you don't want to leave money on the table, and if they do manage to win, ahead of as you say, Champions League qualifier, then it'd be interesting to see what goes on. That is your lot for this Friday. Many thanks to everyone who's joined us over the course of the last 45, 50 minutes or so. Best bet, Lewis, before we wrap things up. It can be a futures pick. It can be a Friday night pick or a Saturday pick. What would be your best bet, do you think?
No, I like the bet tonight. I've got to say the under 2.5 line in the Wimbledon versus Luton game at plus money. I think that's wrong. I think it should be odds on that price. Just looking at the trends in League One on the first match day, and the two teams probably they're both set up to be a low scoring game. Luton don't score many goals. Wimbledon are great in defence, so could be a tough watch, and hopefully we'll profit from it.
Unders in the Luton game at Kenilworth Road. That's going to be the play of the day for us. Many thanks to everyone who's joined us over the course of the last 50 minutes. Steve will be back on Monday. What can I tell you? Steve's legion of supporters will be happy. We've still got more shows to come when it comes to the hard ball with Doug and Chris, and we've got fast break, all the NBA lines and prop bets and so on with Doug and Wes. That's your lot from myself and Lewis. Have a good weekend. Hopefully it's a profitable one. We will speak on Monday.